all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and wherever you may be, and wherever you may be, to you I say Shalom, Yashua Shalom. Alright, this is going to be super brief. I probably could have put it in, and do like a whole separate lesson to it. Bear with me as I look for my glasses. I don't think I have them. Yeah, I left them in the living room. Anyways, yeah, I probably could have done this in a little separate lesson, but it's so brief that I want to get into the other side of the pocket right in at the beginning of this world news here, because I'm going to play that first clip right after this, what I'm referring to. So here's this first scripture here in Psalms chapter 2, verse 1. That's all we want. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Now, real quick, before we get into it, let's read a couple other versions. See what it says. Let me the AMP. Why are the nations in an uproar, in turmoil against the highest, and why do the people devise a vain and hopeless plot? Let me get a water. All right, pardon me. So it says, why are the nations in an uproar, in turmoil against the highest, and why do the people devise a vain and hopeless plot? I like that. Why do the people devise a vain and hopeless plot? Let's see what the NLT reads. Why are the nations so angry? Why do they waste their time with futile plans? Yeah, futile. All right, which means, in case anyone doesn't know, just stretch this out a little bit. Futile, incapable of producing any useful result or point. Ooh, that's heavy. Incapable of producing any useful result, pointless. Oh, bear with me. All right, so yeah, futile, incapable of producing any useful result, pointless. All right, that's gonna be real good as we go into this, the actual clip here, which will be the first one that I play, and then we'll roll into the rest of the news. So it says, why do the heathen rage? And I want to get this word rage here. All right, which is ragash in the Hebrew. Ragash, meaning to be in a tumult or commotion. But here's the one: to conspire or plot. All right, con with spire, spirit or breath. All right, so with one breath, with one consent. So, and this is what the main thing behind it, honing in on, is plot. What they're plotting. All right, they're always plotting to do something, especially referring to space. Let's get this word, a vain thing. Right, vain thing. It says rayak with a Q on the end. Emptiness, vanity, empty, idle, vain. That's what it goes back to. Rawak with the Q. To make empty, empty out, empty. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so what I really want to go over here and get this word right here. Imagine. Alright, so the word is haga. Alright. Look, to moan, growl, utter, muse, murder, meditate. There it is again. Devise, plot. You see? Speak. Alright, meditate, imagine. Excuse me. See what the definition is for imagine, really. Generally refers to the mental formulation of images or concepts not present to the senses, famously embodied. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, they imagine a vain thing. And what are they imagining? These people are imagining having babies in space. Babies in space. I got one more verse. I'm gonna go and get to it. Isaiah 45:18. For thus said the Lord Yahweh, that created the heavens, the highest himself, that formed the earth and made it. He hath established it. He created it not in vain. These people are talking about having babies in space. They already got robots having babies. Okay. Meanwhile, you got these retarded women, with these crazy women running around mad at men. Go get mad at Esau, the one that turned you against the men, the one that made robots to birth babies, and now they're talking about having babies in space with his low birth rate. He has established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. You see, the earth to be inhabited. Why do they keep trying to run up in space and do stuff? Because they're trying to run from what's to come. They see the elites know what judgment is coming, right? But everybody else doesn't. Besides those that have the eyesight, all right, those that have been given the oil. I am Yahweh, and there is none else. And that was the main point. The Lord formed the earth to be inhabited. And this vain thing that they're imagining as we roll into this clip is them going up into space. Like we already mentioned, we know Edomites are having low birth rates because the moles or the women just don't want them. Okay, and then for the few that actually are, coupled together, things ain't going so great for those people either. Then you have robots they're making. They need to be able to birth babies. You got women running to the clinics talking about they don't need a man. Well, you still got to go to the clinic to get sperm to get a baby, because you can't produce children on your own. Which, to be fair, neither can men. But you women are really manipulated and really thinking that you don't need a man at all, though. Okay, men are not that crazy to think that they don't need a woman. They know that they don't need a woman for certain things. That they're able to get along, even have a more peaceful life without women. But you women truly think that babies are of you. My child. No, it's not your child. Technically, it's his child if you, according to the sperm, but it's y'all's child because y'all conceived it together. But the sperm came from the man. Which, if you don't want a man, but you want a baby, you have to go to a clinic and get. Anyways, whole other topic, right? Robots having babies, or they're making them, and now they want to have babies in space. Why do the heathen rage and these people would imagine a vain thing, man?
The next giant leap is not going to be a footprint, but it could actually be a birth, a human birth in space. As space tourism accelerates, the scientists are confronting what till before was an unthinkable question. Could the first human babies now be born beyond planet Earth? And if it were to happen, what kind of a human would in fact return back? Take a look at this board.
Private space stations are being planned. Space hotels are being marketed. If you have money, you can buy a ticket and go to space. The domain is no longer exclusively reserved for few spacefaring nations. Human presence beyond Earth is no longer science fiction, and with it comes biology. Experts now warn that as couples spend longer periods in orbit, pregnancy in space may move from theory to reality, but science is alarmingly unprepared. Researchers say we know very little about how male and female fertility behaves in microgravity. Hormones shift, blood flows differently. Sperm motility and egg development may be altered in ways not yet measured. Even conception itself could be affected by zero gravity, where basic biological processes behave unpredictably. The greater danger begins after conception. Then there is the danger of radiation. Without our planet's protective atmosphere, cosmic rays pelt DNA like microscopic bullets. Scientists at Cranfield University suggest the risks are catastrophic. A baby conceived and carried in the void may emerge with developmental abnormalities so profound they defy modern medicine. For now, there are no clear rules, only warnings. Humanity has always expanded first and asked questions later. Space may be no different. But when the frontier involves unborn life, the cost of ignorance could be irreversible. The first baby in space, if it comes, will not just redefine exploration. It will redefine what it means to be human on Earth and beyond it.
Switching gears now, Japan is braving a severe winter emergency. According to the country's Fire and Disaster Management Agency, at least 35 people have been killed in snow-related incidents over the past 15 days itself. Unusually heavy snowfalls struck northern and central Japan, with some parts experiencing more than double their average levels. Niigata Prefecture recorded the highest number of fatalities, with 12 deaths reported there. On Tuesday, a residential building collapsed under the weight of the accumulated snow, resulting in the death of a 68-year-old man. In Aomori Prefecture, snow depths have reached 14 feet, trapping many residents in their homes and restricting movement. Officials have warned that the melting snow from rooftops poses further danger, and residents were also seen walking through trenches dug into the heavy snow as the drivers battled to keep their cars from getting trapped. In several parts, in fact, public transport has been suspended, schools ordered to remain shut. The Japanese Prime Minister convened a special cabinet meeting on Tuesday. She ordered the ministers to take all possible measures to prevent further casualties. And to tackle the crisis, the Japanese government has dispatched troops to help the local authorities clear the roads and support the affected communities.
If these people, JSDF, did not come, I was thinking several places would collapse today or tomorrow.
And according to officials, trucks and heavy machinery were being used to move the snow, but efforts have struggled to keep pace with the relentless snowfall. In Sapporo, the largest city in Japan's northern Hokkaido region, around 1,000 snowplows were used to clear the snow from 3,800 kilometers of roads on Tuesday.
Yo estoy ahora mismo en una gasolinera de la 3 de la Haya.
It's a rough day for one of journalism's most legendary brands. The Washington Post today announced that it was cutting fully 1/3 of its staff, eliminating its sports section, eliminating reporters in many of its foreign bureaus, and its weekly book section. Its leadership says the Post hasn't kept up with the times and can no longer be all things to all people. Even though the changes were rumored for weeks, and many people at the Washington Post were appealing for help from its billionaire owner, Jeff Bezos, the scale of the cuts were shocking when they came down. The Post has been well known. Its Watergate coverage is legendary over the history and is in all the history books. It has stood with the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times as one of the lead newspapers in the country. One of its former editors, Marty Baron, put most of the blame on Bezos in a blistering message that he came out with today. He condemned Bezos for trying to curry favor with Trump. And he said it was a case study in near instant self-inflicted brand destruction. Bezos hasn't said anything about that today.
Well, let me say this. I think we're having a reckoning as a society, right? No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So, for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage. But I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
Today on Media Miss Minute, a newly disclosed ICE memo expands officers' authority to make warrantless arrests. Plus, Minnesota's governor and attorney general are headed to Capitol Hill to answer questions about alleged fraud. I'm Craig DeGrelli. In today's Media Miss Minute, two stories getting little attention across partisan media lines. Let's start with what the right is missing. A newly issued Immigration and Customs Enforcement memo broadens when agents can make warrantless arrests by widening the circumstances in which officers can claim a suspect might flee if they stop to get a warrant. The change also gives agents more leeway to make so-called collateral arrests, detaining unauthorized immigrants they encounter during operations, even if those individuals were not the original target. Now to what the left is missing. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison are set to testify before the House Oversight Committee next month. Committee Chair James Comer says lawmakers will press them on allegations of widespread fraud in the state's social services programs. The committee recently heard from Minnesota state lawmakers who claim the Walz administration failed to act and retaliated against whistleblowers who raised red flags. To keep up with
the 700 drawdown, okay, I see it's a positive step, but we need 2 more steps and get them out of here completely. I'm happy to see that's happening, but it's not enough. There's so little credibility in anything the Trump administration says. There's so much misinformation. How can you trust it? You don't, basically. I feel proud that the civil disobedience and the peaceful protests have brought this about.
Get out! Get out, loser!
Oh, it's not enough. I don't know if any of this will be enough, but it's a step in the right direction. We just dropped off food with our daughter at a grade school by here, and all the food and everybody, all the volunteers there are helping families that won't go out. There's 40% of their population that won't go to school. We cannot sustain this. It just cannot.
My first thought is, yay, that we're getting fewer enforcement officers in our community, but my second thought is they're just going to be redirected to terrorize another community, so it's sort of like, it doesn't make me feel good. And so if the quantity goes down, great, but the quality of the enforcement is still here, and they're still using basically the same tactics as they have used, so nothing's really changed. They're going to wear body cams, but they'll probably never let us see the body cam footage, so I don't know what that does for us.
The Red Cross says at least 162 people have been killed by gunmen in Nigeria's Western Kwara state, one of the deadliest attacks in the country in recent months. The strike late Tuesday came after the military recently carried out operations in the area against what it called terrorist elements. Police have confirmed the attack without providing any casualty figures. As the search continues for bodies, the death toll is expected to rise. A local lawmaker says the gunmen stormed the village of Waro at about 6 in the evening, setting shops and the King's Palace on fire. He says the traditional king's whereabouts remain unknown. Nigeria is plagued by an interlinked security crisis. Armed gangs, known locally as bandits, operate in swathes of the country, looting villages and kidnapping people for ransom. Jihadist groups are active in the northeast and northwest, while intercommunal violence is prevalent in the central states. The Nigerian military has intensified operations against the jihadists and bandits. It's faced intense scrutiny in recent months after US President Donald Trump claimed a genocide of Christians was taking place, a claim that's been rejected by the government and independent experts.
The United States has deployed a small military team to Nigeria, Washington confirmed on Tuesday. The head of US Africa Command said the move was in coordination with the Nigerian government and aimed at strengthening efforts against terrorist threats in the country's north. AFCOM did not provide details of the mission's size, scope or activities. The West African nation is facing a long-running jihadist insurgency, which has killed tens of thousands of Nigerians since 2016. In December, US President Trump, in coordination with Nigerian authorities, ordered missile strikes on what he described as Islamic State camps in the country's northeast. Trump has claimed the insurgents are carrying out a Christian genocide, but the Nigerian government says people of all faiths have been victims of the terrorist attacks. Nigeria's defense minister confirmed the presence of US troops but didn't provide further details.
Our next story is about a shift in West Asia. Two countries that were once at loggerheads are now working together. I'm talking about Turkey and Saudi Arabia. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is in Riyadh. Just a few years ago, a visit like this would have been hard to imagine because Turkey and Saudi Arabia were competing for influence in the region and in the Muslim world. They backed opposite sides in various conflicts and they had little diplomatic contact. And with the killing of Saudi dissident Jamal Khashoggi in Turkey, ties hit rock bottom. They've come a long way since. Today, major investment deals are being signed and economic cooperation is taking center stage. So what drove this turnaround and what does this mean for the region? Our next report explains.
For years, Turkey and Saudi Arabia barely spoke. Trust collapsed after the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul in 2018. Relations froze, diplomacy took a back seat, and a rivalry emerged. But now, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is back in Saudi Arabia, and it signals that something has shifted. This trip is not about gestures, it is about necessity. Turkey's economy needs investment, and Saudi Arabia, they want reliable partners. Both face an unstable region, and both are recalculating old rivalries. Erdogan met Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Riyadh. The talks were broad, but the priorities were clear. On trade, the ambition is explicit. Both sides want bilateral trade to hit $10 billion in the short term. The long-term target is about $30 billion. Currently, trade has already crossed $8.6 billion. That momentum matters. Energy was the headline deal. Saudi Arabia will invest $2 billion in renewable energy projects in Turkey. 2 major solar plants will be built, and together they will generate 2,000 megawatts of electricity, enough to power more than 2 million homes. Saudi-backed solar and wind projects could eventually reach 5,000 megawatts. Turkish officials call this one of the biggest foreign investments in the energy sector. While energy was the headline, defense cooperation too took center stage. Both sides announced joint procurement and production of equipment. Officials say defense ties are accelerating.
Both sides emphasize the importance of enhancing existing security cooperation and coordination on issues of common interest, including combating crime in all its forms, countering extremism and terrorism and their financing, exchanging expertise in training, and strengthening cooperation in the field of cybersecurity.
But the real weight of this visit wasn't in the economic contracts, it was in the geopolitical discussions. Turkey and Saudi Arabia aligned on Gaza. They spoke about reconstruction and discussed how to work together beyond their borders.
Both sides reaffirmed their commitment to continued coordination and intensified efforts to maintain international peace and security.
Take Somalia, for example. Both leaders reaffirmed support for Somalia's sovereignty. They rejected the recognition of Somaliland. Somaliland declared independence in 1991. It has functioned as a self-governing region for decades, but it has never been internationally recognized. Israel became the first country to recognize it in December 2025. But Somalia still considers it a part of its territory. Ankara and Riyadh warned that recognizing Somaliland would fuel instability. Yemen was also on the agenda. Both sides backed the internationally recognized government. On Sudan, both called for unity. There had been speculation that Turkey might join a Saudi-Pakistan defense pact, but reports suggest Ankara has decided otherwise. Nevertheless, the former rivals are choosing pragmatism. Economics is driving diplomacy. And by the end of Erdogan's visit, the message was unmistakable. This was not a thaw, it was a reset.
Can you confirm the format and location of Friday's talks with Iran and clarify, given that Iran refuses to negotiate its missile program and insists on a right to enrich uranium, is the U.S. open to a compromise if that means reaching a deal to avoid military action? And separately, if I may, how exactly do these negotiations advance President Trump's repeated pledges to help the Iranian protesters, many of whom are likely to see these nuclear talks as legitimizing the very government that violently massacred its own people?
Well, let me first say, just on the logistics, at the end, let me back up and say from a big picture perspective, I think it's pretty clear right now, President Trump is willing to talk to and meet with and engage with anyone in the world. I mean, that we don't view meetings as a concession. We don't view meetings as even legitimization. It is our willingness to sit and listen and talk to anyone, any adversary, any ally, obviously, but anyone around the world. And so the president's always been open to that. He showed that in the first administration, and he's showing it again now. And so I think if there's an opportunity to engage directly with counterparts in the Iranian regime, the United States would be open to that, and that's what we're open to. We thought we had an established forum that had been agreed to in Turkey. It was put together by a number of partners who wanted to attend and be a part of it. I saw conflicting reports yesterday from the Iranian side saying that they had not agreed to that. So that's still being worked through. At the end of the day, the United States is prepared to engage and has always been prepared to engage with Iran. As far as the topic of those discussions and what the agenda needs to be, look, I think in order for talks to actually lead to something meaningful, they will have to include certain things. And that includes the range of their ballistic missiles. That includes their sponsorship of terrorist organizations across the region. That includes the nuclear program, and that includes the treatment of their own people. The fundamental problem Iran faces and the regime faces right now is that what people are on the streets complaining about, this regime cannot address. They cannot address it because it's economic. Those problems remain. And one of the reasons why the Iranian regime cannot provide the people of Iran the quality of life that they deserve is because they're spending all their money, they're spending all their resources of what is a rich country sponsoring terrorism, sponsoring all these proxy groups around the world, exporting, as they call it, their revolution. But I remind everybody what I've been saying through my entire career in public service. I said it in my hearing when I was asking for confirmation through the Senate. The Iranian people and the Iranian regime are very unalike. In essence, what the Iranian people want, this is a culture with a deep history. These are people that are the leadership of Iran at the clerical level does not reflect the people of Iran. I know of no other country where there's a bigger difference between the people that lead the country and the people who live there. And so our hope resides in that. As far as the president's views on the way protesters were treated, he was very clear about it. And as you saw, part of what the president said publicly prevented mass executions that were being planned and that we're on the precipice of. And obviously beyond that, the president retains a number of options to how he responds to that and future events. But as far as the talks are concerned, you know, I think the Iranians had agreed to a certain format. For whatever reason, it's changed in their system or what have you. We'll see if we can get back to the right place. But the United States is prepared to meet with them. I think it was scheduled for Friday. Steve is ready to go. He'll be prepared for that. If the Iranians want to meet, we're ready. They've expressed an interest in meeting and talking. If they change their mind, we're fine with that too. We'd prefer to meet and talk. I'm not sure you can reach a deal with these guys, but we're going to try to find out. We don't see there's any harm in trying to figure out there's something that can be done. This is a president that always prefers a peaceful outcome to any conflict or any challenge.